Steve, did you watch Grammys last night?
And I did not. No. What did
you missed? Lainey Wilson. She was on.
I heard she had. I saw a headline. Apparently, I saw headlines of people the clothing stuff, but I did not. No. What did we watch? Innocent. I have no idea what was on the background noise.
Okay. I don't know.
So did you watch it all?
Yeah, I watched it front to back.
Who had the best performance?
Cynthia Erivo.
Okay. No idea.
No, you went and saw Wicked. Didn't you go see Wicked?
Oh, is she one of the wicked witches, ladies?
Yeah, she's
people.
Yeah, she's Elphaba.
Okay.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a long podcast. This is the Stuff Summer Says podcast with Steve. It's our Super Bowl extravaganza / there's a lot of numbers in today's show, I think is the best way to describe that.
Can't possibly go wrong. Two calm guys with numbers.
Yeah,
Nothing
perfect.
could go wrong.
Great. Super excited about that. Speaking of numbers, if you're tuning in on the YouTube channel, we do have, we are undergoing a Stuff Summer Says Frederick Bureau renovation. As you can see, some shelves behind me here. I'm willing to put your name on these shelves for a number. So if you would like to, we can do the whole bookshelf. We can do one. Maybe we can kind of tier them out. Cover the cost of renovations is what we're trying to do so that, our board of trustees is happy. Best way to say that.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe somebody could spell their name out in little, like those
books.
those big block things, whatever, Scrabble blocks or something behind them or books. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyways.
I guess you'll entertain any idea. That's great.
We're very open to that. Okay. Where do you want to start? We got, I want to talk some wrestling stuff. I want to talk some hoop stuff briefly. You said Ryan said numbers last week, and then we'll do our usual Super Bowl pick'em challenge thing. Why don't we start with wrestling? How was wrestling on Saturday? Friday?
Penn State's just so good, it's not even funny. Yeah, it's crazy how good they are. I mean, I like that stat that I kind of trotted out last week about Penn State winning 6 times in the first 33 meetings with Iowa, and now they've won. It might be 8 of 10 now, depending on when the run started. It wasn't uncompetitive, but it was uncompetitive. They're just so much better than everybody else.
We had it on TV, and it was the background noise for the most part. I would say.
Yeah, they've just taken the drama out of it, in terms of how good they are, which is great for them. And the sport's gonna catch up, right? Like they're program. There's gonna be at some point the runaway, I assume, but it's not going to be this year.
I think the thing that stood out for me, and I think it stood out for everybody, of course, is the Tyler Kasich moment where he picked the guy up and saluted and blood pouring down his face. That stood out to me. And I think the other thing was kind of how boring it was, which is selfish and obnoxious a little bit. And we've talked that through plenty of times. But no, it was cool to at least see the spotlight for the sport. I think there was a legitimate buzz all day for wrestling people or for really the sport itself. That like the way some friends were texting earlier in the day almost felt more akin to a football game, or the build up to a football game. And I think that's cool to see just how that program is still catching on amongst Penn State fans. You also wrote an article about the wrestling experience. Scale of 1 to 10. How happy was Steve to leave the BJC?
Oh, to leave the BJC,
or just like how happy were you the performance from the BJC?
Inside, they're like a 6.5, 7. Like it wasn't
There's
me.
A difference between 6.5, 7.
Okay, but the game's 10. The participation, the people on the mat are a 10.
Okay,
right. So the things around it, I'll say 7. Like they didn't do anything wrong. There's just more they could do to make it better. And I haven't been to enough other places for someone in the wrestling world to say, well, geez, we do it better than anyone else. Okay, great. Still not good enough. Like you could still be better.
So what could they do better?
The biggest thing for me is scoreboards. Because wrestling has a couple different scores going on. It's got a bout score going on, and it's got the match score overall. And you can't, from where we sat, and we have decent seats, the bout score is on the ribbon board. The mat you're looking down at. So it's not in my field of view to see that. It just seems like if they put little scoreboards on the side and the corners of the mats, everything would be within your view. And then the big Jumbotron has a video up top 3 quarters. Then the bottom quarter is the logo for each team, the last name of the respective wrestler, and the weight class in the middle. There's plenty of room there for rankings and record for the individuals. And I guess I really wasn't. I was frustrated initially, wasn't going to write anything about it, but then they introduced the dancing team, the 3-time national champion Lionettes. We couldn't mention one national champion of the wrestlers who were on the mats while they were there. That's all. Like, introduce the wrestlers and tell us a 2-time national champion with a 22-4 record this year and ranked number 2. And it is against the guy who's 12-5 and ranked number 5. Because there were a couple top 5 matchups. And it would have helped for people. I know that it was mostly a wrestling crowd, but I don't believe everybody knew everybody's record and who was ranked where. I just don't believe that. So just serve the fan. That's all.
And I think that makes sense, because as somebody that doesn't know wrestling as well as you do, that would be very helpful information for me. And it is helpful information for me during the telecast. Like that we're getting all of that during the telecast. You're getting, I think the BTN Scorebug shows, at minimum, it shows their rank. And then it will intermittently show the overall dual score, but it has the score of the actual bout up there the whole time. I don't know if it shows records, but they at least introduce and say, okay, this is this guy, this is his pedigree. It was helpful context, and I would understand. I think you're right. There's 15,000, 16,000 people in this photo. I'm looking at the picture on the blog right now, and I would say probably 90% of them know what's going on. Maybe 80% of them know what's going on. But I think if I was there, I would want that information, or I would be asking the person next to me, or I'm pulling out my phone. So why not just make it easier for me as a consumer and put it there? Are they showing, like, one of our gripes during football season is they show so many ads on the ribbon boards and really don't make the ribbons boards useful. Was that the case?
No ads. I mean, there was stuff. There was
normal
actually
ads, I would assume.
Normal ads on the ribbon boards. Nothing on the center one. The presenting sponsor had a logo on the mats on one side and not the other, which was interesting to me. Like, go ahead and buy them 2 foot by 3 foot square adhesive things that there's one on each side, so the people on either side can see it. It was interesting that there was only on one side. No, it's not jargoned up. It's not overly sold. It's still a pretty pure wrestling experience as much as it can be, and should be. I just think they could do a better job serving fans. They sell programs at one booth, right? And they cost $2, which is no big deal if you want to get them. I guess the information's probably in there. We didn't get that because we missed it, right? And I wasn't going to go back among the crowd and get them. I mean, they do okay, but they are not. I guess the point of what I wrote was that they're not at the level of the team. And I think they could do, for as much as the athletic department was wise enough and timely with whiteout energy in football season, just little touches like that to this presentation. And it's not like they haven't been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
Like, some light bulb should have gone on somewhere along the line. And I get that it's different and you're going to a new arena and it's once a year. But it just seems like it could be better.
Do they do that at Rec Hall?
You know, I haven't gone to Rec Hall when I'm a horrible season ticket holder because I can't go for the blowouts, just bore me. But they haven't. That used to be one of my gripes, is that they didn't do that either. Like, they wouldn't lower the scoreboard. Again, everybody's looking at the center mat and that stuff's not there. It's on the end zone scoreboards. Yeah. So somebody can correct me, but that was my last experience in there, it was on the end zone scoreboards. All the action's in the middle.
Right.
Do something. And they have tournaments here. Like, they have little stand-up scoreboards that have red and green on them that all wrestling fans know that would, I don't think it would junk it up. Like, I don't think they had like a blue and white lights around the raised platform, which was kind of neat. But I don't think a scoreboard or two on the mats would junk it up. It would be helpful. It
sounds weird, but even like a TV, like
something.
A TV or a
display,
computer monitor.
Right.
Is what I really mean.
Yep. Great event. It could be. If the wrestlers are a 10, the presentation is not a 10 yet.
did you go to the Olympic trial? Was it the Olympic trial? Yeah, the Olympic trials.
Yep.
Did you went to those?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
What was that? Did that have information that you needed?
Yeah, because they had 3 or 4 mats. They were right there. Like you had to have what was on your mat kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm wondering is like the only reason that counterpoint I would have is does that block people's views that's down lower? But I'm sure there's a way you could put those so that they don't block views but are still easily accessible to like look at.
Yeah, I think if you put them in corners, like 2, 1 in each corner, I don't know, or 1 in each, 2 corners, especially toward the sides, like the sidelines, there's nobody to block because they're right up against the raised platform. I am impressed by the number of people, and they're mostly program related on the one mat side that are sitting on floor seats. Because if you're like more than 5 or 8 rows back in the floor seats, you got to be watching the jumbotron. Like there's not much you can see. So I'm impressed with people who think those are good seats, or maybe they just get stuck.
I've always thought that during nationals actually is like I'm like, who I would much rather almost sit up top or at a normal seat than on the floor if I'm not quite literally past the second row. Like it would not be an enjoyable experience. Okay, are you? There's another one on Friday.
No, I gave it to charity. We had a kid in my hometown was sick. They did a fundraiser, so I gave away, whatever.
Okay. All right. Cool. Anything else wrestling wise? It was like
they're fun to watch. I mean, no, I appreciate the excellence. Gosh, they're good. Like it's just individually, top to bottom, fun to watch, wrestle hard, try to score points. That's what makes them different and enjoyable. So it's always fun to see them.
Good. All right. I'm glad you had for the most part, a good time. Other big Penn State sports news of the week. Penn State basketball has kind of. Sorry, let me try. That was actually my impersonation of Penn State basketball. Can't even make the right noises. Penn State basketball is kind of it up lately. There we go. That's a technical term. Let's you posed an interesting question to me. You basically said you thought that people shouldn't be as upset as people have come off as upset about Penn State basketball being so lately because they were picked to finish 17th in the conference, and that's about where they're slotted right now. Did I get the gist of that question?
Yeah, I mean, I get that they got an early season win or two, and people are like, oh, they're going to use that 17th. Maybe I said they're going to use that 17th place pick and rally against it. Mm-hmm. But the stuff I've seen, and part of it is the bracketology, like when are teams in or out, so much earlier than it used to be 5 or 6 years ago, the tournament. So they've been talking about is Penn State on the bubble. And people are surprised that they're struggling. Well, why? They were picked to finish 17th. Like, I guess I don't understand that.
So when you texted me this and I retorted with this, and this was kind of what the precipice of the article was, I think there's a couple of things. Number one, this is a coach that supposedly knows how to win, has taken VCU to the tournament X number of times. I don't have the number in front of me, and all within relative recency, including some of his players that he brought over with him. I think the other thing was the fact that you had a core back. Now that core between Ace Baldwin, Nick, and even Puff, those guys have kind of been injured, dealing with injury stuff, which is fine, and that's one thing. But the fact that they're a senior or veteran core, and one of the things that we've seen to success for college basketball programs outside of the like really hot like Duke with Cooper Flag right now is like those teams actually tend to perform well because they're more weathered. They've been in those situations. I think that for me, that's where those expectations came from of like, this is a pretty good team on that standpoint. Take care of it. Do it that way. The other thing that is frustrating, and we talked about this a little bit, is Mike Rhodes' plea to get people to come to the games and the sweat with us thing, which is to me is just like the remembrance feels exactly carbon copy of the Pat Chambers era of where things were at and how he would beg people to come to games and how it was like, oh, we're just a bounce away, just a shot away. And that's where Penn State has largely been over the last, let's call it 3-4 games, minus maybe the Illinois game. And so that's why I think people are frustrated, because we have already lived through that in some sense. And when you've lived through that, seen that, your red flags go up a lot quicker because you're like, oh, we did this for 8 years. And yes, toward the end, it did work in the year that they, went in 2020 and then COVID happens, right? But then he gets fired and, or resigns or whatever's, and now undoes all of the program's progress back to kind of square one. The other thing I think is, fair or not, we're comparing him to Micah Shrewsbury, who took his team that he built from scratch to the tournament in his second season.
No, I think that all makes sense. I guess I don't know that upperclassmen or senior led matters any much anymore with how stuff will turn over. But programs like Penn State, right? Like that's the model, I guess, right? You get a little better, you get older, you have a couple of transfers in, and you're in a position to succeed. So are you concerned then, as probably more of a basketball fan than me, that, hey, this is kind of the model and it seemed like they were positioned for the model and things aren't going well?
I'm concerned in 2 areas. Number one, the rec hall game, they did not have energy. And that crowd seemed to be on top of them, was very involved even throughout the entire course of the evening. And I think that's concerning to me, one. And I'm concerned kind of going back to those red flags of like, this just feels like deja vu all over again. And the last time that took 8 years for this to work. I'm not at all saying that like Mike Rhodes should be on the hot seat or anything like that. I'm just saying that this isn't like, there needs to be a tone shift that we're aware that things aren't going the way they are, but the covering it up with that kind of methodology and making these pleas and things like that doesn't fly here because we've lived through that, seen that before, and it doesn't work. I think but to me, the bigger thing was the lack of energy is largely concerning, just because I understand they're in a rut right now, but they can, now the tournament's really tough, but like they could have, with a win over Ohio State, who I think they were favored against, probably at least put themselves back in the conversation a little bit. And they go out and play in the program showcase game really flat, and in a way that was very disappointing to see.
And here, again, because I'm an old guy, right, and I'll listen to it on radio or I'm traveling places, Steve and Dick, it was like one of those games where you tune in and you listen to like 30 seconds, you're like, oh, they must be losing. And then they talk a little more, and you're like, oh, they're losing in a frustratingly bad way for them, right? And it was interesting to hear that, like, because Dick Girardi will do his math. Well, they got started second half and they didn't get within 10 in the first 4 minutes, and now it's going to be tough. And I'm like they got a whole 3/4 of a half left to play. If they get hot, they'll be all right, right? Like, how can they say this, right? And then it goes another couple minutes, and it's like, well, there's really, at this point, I don't know if they're going to be able to. I'm like, wow, they must really be playing bad. So, yeah.
It's funny the difference between Steve and Jack and Steve and Dick, because I feel like with Steve and Dick, I can pick up on that a lot quicker than I can Steve and Jack, because I feel like even when games aren't going well with Steve and Jack, they're not that they're overly optimistic, but they are, I don't know, there's less panic in the tone, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, because I've heard it go the other way with basketball. I've heard them come out of a game that started the second half, and Dick will be like, oh man, they're just looking flat. I don't know if they're going to have it tonight. And they end up rallying and coming back, right? And I'm always like, it's a long game. They've got time. A shooter gets hot. But that just didn't, like, even they said there was like 4 or 5 minutes left, and they're like, the fans are leaving. They, and the fans were here. They tried to give them a reason to cheer and give them, tried to be there for them, and they just didn't give them help. So the team didn't give the fans a reason to cheer them. So, yeah, I guess I understand that. And I guess my expectations for basketball in general are low, right? Like, if they show up and they're halfway decent, that's okay. And I know many more people would like them to be more than that. And I'm sure this season isn't helping that.
What percentage do you think of Penn State fans it is? I think it's 5%.
Okay, then maybe I was too right. But I think the media isn't part of that 5%. Like, I think media members are in part. You mean in terms of care more?
Yeah.
Is that the number you asked me?
Yeah, like if you put 95 or 100 Penn Staters in a room, 10% of them at most
really care
and understand all of the nuances and have watched a majority of the games, aka someone like me who is enjoying that. I think yes. No, and is the media thing, and I'm not knocking anyone, and I don't think you are either, but is the media thing more so a void of football season is over, so this is the next logical thing to care about?
Yeah, and I think it's more enjoyable to do your job when the team is good.
Right.
And football may change this a little bit. I think football's year-round process that's become the past couple of years and will be going forward might change this a little bit. But there are several media outlets who are probably better off when the athletic teams are better off, when things are going on, right?
Yes.
And I think basketball might move the needle for casual fans more than, say, wrestling would. So if the basketball teams are good, the basketball team is good, the pay sites are probably getting a little more attention to complement what their football is. So not overtly, but it probably doesn't hurt them if they're halfway decent or good.
I don't know this, and I don't want to but I feel like the message board community is intensely more wrestling focused. There's more wrestling threads. There are a ton of threads about this, the Bo Bassett, if he's going to commit or not. There are a ton of conversations about that. Hardly anything about Penn State basketball. But I feel like it's more so like the less pay sites and more of the traditional publications, if you will. Not that those places aren't traditional, that are dependent on that, I guess would be a good way to say that. I think I was thinking about that. What I was thinking about that was just like the context of like, there are a few wrestling beat reporters, right? Like professional beat reporters, not at the college, like college student, like our college publications. And there are basketball, but like there's very few hockey. I mean, you're doing CDT stuff for hockey. Is there anybody that else? Like, I just was thinking about this the other day. Like, I'm surprised with how hockey is so grown that there isn't more of that out there.
No, because there's not. I mean, it's Onward State and the Collegian, right? For the
now
most
that
part,
Ben is gone.
Right. StateCollege.com doesn't have anybody that's doing much unless they pick up something from Onward State where the relationship is. So no, it hasn't really. I mean, and the students do a great job with it, and they know hockey, and guys forthcoming. So yeah, that's probably why hockey isn't up there as much.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about Wisconsin has like a beat writer for their main newspaper for hockey. I think Minnesota has a ton, and obviously that's different. And I guess you could say the same thing about wrestling here, is because wrestling is probably maybe more passionate than hockey, even if hockey's more broadly followed in the state. Anyways, okay. That's just some out loud thoughts there. That's why this is called a podcast. Anything else basketball wise? Go through these numbers real quick.
Nope, let's hear the numbers.
Okay. So we didn't talk about this last week because we kind of had a pretty busy show. But we're going to talk about it this week. The annual financial report is out. This year's blog is called "I Went Through through Penn State's 2023-24 athletics financial report, so you don't have to." And that's basically what we're going to do, but in podcast version here today. Was there anything immediately that stood out to you?
I'm going to tell you two things, and you aren't going to like either one of them.
All right, let's hear them.
I look for like big percentage changes, right?
Okay.
So there was the parking change, and in terms of parking revenue, which people will grumble about, but it is what it is anymore these days. And the Spirit Squad expenses.
Yes.
That one, like those are my two things that I looked at. I'm like, okay, parking went up because they're enforcing it more. They're doing the park mobile. Wasn't revenue that wasn't realized before. Like the number of people might not have changed, but they probably just find a way to make sure they're getting paid for the people who are driving. But the Spirit Squads, I was like, unless something just hit this year that wasn't there before, like, I don't know, that was a weird increase.
The only thing that I thought was, but no, that was this season, that the Nittany Lion got a new suit, but I do not think it cost $300,000. I forget what the exact difference was.
I don't know if maybe did some group get elevated to actual Spirit Squad level? Like maybe they reclassified somebody from a club or ancillary level that made it all hit at the same time or something?
Maybe we can collect some questions and email some people on this, because that would be interesting to find out. And what was the parking? All right. those are Steve's highlights. Broad highlights: Penn State made the most money it's ever made. Probably also spent the most money, at least that I could find, ever as well. $220 million in revenue, and then $215 million in spend, with a $5 million profit, which you can debate whether or not athletic departments are profitable or should be profitable. But it's interesting because Ohio State is operating on a $40 million deficit right now. So that would be one reason to call that out. Most of the money, once again, always comes from ticket sales, Nittany Lion Club, and media rights. You pretty much know that. Interesting jumps in ticket sales that I saw. Just a slight bump in football. But what I want to do is, and maybe this is a summer or early winter project here, or late winter project here, just kind of map this along with team performance. I thought it was very interesting that women's volleyball continues to grow in terms of their percentages. Thought it was interesting that women's basketball went up as well, just because they have not necessarily found their footing. They kind of teetered with the tournament this season, the season that these financials are from. But then they kind of had that late season collapse last year, and that was what cost them. And then Penn State kind of changed the way it groups some of these things in there. But hockey still remains the number 2 driver. I think that is probably more of a correlation of number of games than it is anything else, and number of seats in the arena. I mean, it's still a hot ticket to get. It's still not an easy ticket to get. We bought ours on the secondary market for a game we went to, and it was not cheap. I mean, we spent probably just about as much as we did to go to an NHL game, just for those tickets. I think I want to map that out and see if there's any correlation there. And that might be an interesting one. The contributions going down was interesting to me, and might be the reason why we saw a surprise-ish Nittany Lion Club donation uptick for this season. So most people's donation went from $100 to $200 for a base ticket or a seat license. And I think this is in preparation for what's coming down the pike of the whole revenue share, things like that, and getting prepared for that. But I wonder, obviously we'll never really get the Happy Valley United numbers. I wonder if any of that is attributed to, even a small percentage is attributed to the fact that NIL is a place where you can go give your money. And I think more so now than ever, just like conversations I've had with people, the Nittany Lion Club I'm just looking at it as the seat license. If I want to give, I'm tending to want to give more towards the NIL collective as opposed to other aspects there. And
that comes with interesting dominoes for athletics, right? Because you have staffs whose job it is to raise money. If for some reason you end up raising less or flat because people are giving money someplace else that still benefits you, but maybe you might not need that personnel for it. It'll be, I mean, everybody's wrestling with this nationally, but it'll be an interesting thing to see where people decide to put their money.
And we still don't have our ticket information in terms of costs for this season. I have a tough time seeing them raise the prices just with all the hubbub going on in terms of the west sideline and all of the renovation they're doing there. Like, I think that would be a sticking point to say, hey, a quarter of the stadium, we're moving you, but also give us more money. But who knows? I've been wrong before.
Lessen the pain if you do a little bit this year, and
yeah,
won't have to be as big the following year.
Next year. I think the parking and concessions, which is grouped under two things, and this is the second question I had as we go through this and talk through this here, is interesting. Just from the bump of were able to sell beer the whole season this year. I don't know that 5 million of that is attributed to that, but I bet that some of that is. Now, I would assume that, because isn't Penn State Parking Authority what Park Mobile goes to, though? Is that?
I think so. No, I actually
wonder what the split is there.
Right. Well, I overlooked the slash concessions. When you put the beer in there, maybe parking wasn't that much of a big realized revenue. It was. I might think it's more of the alcohol than everything else.
The only other thing I thought in here is there was. I wonder if this is included, the concert. The concert was in April, which includes this this fiscal year that we're looking at. Yep. And they charged a pretty penny for that. Did Penn State really get a $5 million boost from that? I don't know. Maybe we can do some responsible journalism and email some questions around on that. So that was kind of it from other revenue notes there. Oh, and the sports camps thing. That was the other one I didn't understand, was why they just started reporting that, because they've always done sports camps, right? Like, wonder what was there a bylaw that changed? Those would be some interesting.
Else they're just breaking out. Maybe football's getting rid of their camp. Maybe they decided to make camps. The camps might have been the purview of each of the individual sports before, and they might have broken it out there.
Into
like, even if it hasn't changed, they're just maybe making it its own line item.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. In theory, there is a way you could see like the profitability of each program. I don't do that. I didn't do that just because like you got to like other operating revenue, right? Like that covers a lot of other sports. So it kind of murkies the waters and things like that. So that does it for revenue, so to speak. Nothing too surprising in terms of salaries. Those just went up, I would assume, just based on some of the spending we've seen increase throughout there. I did think the severance buyouts was interesting because I would assume that we're seeing the end of some contracts, maybe Pat Chambers being one, and then maybe Kirk Chiraka being the other. But then you're going to see the inclusion of what would have been Mike Yursich's as well. Team travel also went up, and we won't know the effects of this year's impact on that until next year. But I think this is going to go up even more again more this year, just because this is the first Big Ten year, or West Coast Big Ten year, and I think that's something to highlight. But yeah, we got to find out why Spirit Groups went up 64%. It went up, for context, it was at $398,000 in 2023, 2024, or I'm sorry, 2022, 2023. In 2023, 2024, it went up to $652,000. I don't think the fourth quarter flag cost that much.
I was waiting.
I was
waiting.
That's what I don't think. The other thing I'm curious about, and this is more so if somebody, what are memberships and dues? Like, does that include like coaching memberships? Does like what dues are
oh yeah, I would think they're the coaching associations and other associations individually. And I don't know if that's a dues. Is there an NCAA due? Like, I mean, I guess
that's kind of what I was wondering.
But there's probably, I'm sure there's an association for every possible thing. So yes.
Okay.
The athlete meals was flat.
That was flat, which is interesting that student aid went up, but the food costs did not go up. But that might be just because related to, was there a 3% tuition bump? Can't remember.
Well, the other thing that started this fall, which could impact athlete meals next year, is this fall that football introduced its own training table, right? They pulled it out of Pollock and made their own. So athlete meals next year should be different, probably, because it's going to be on their own. Like, they're not paying. This would be kind of like the Jordan Center, I bet, in some ways, when they talk about renting the facility.
Yes.
Like athlete meals, some of this was probably paid to finance and business in the dining halls for that number. They'll have that continued for other sports, but they'll have their own for football this fiscal year. So it'll be interesting if that shows up in there or something. I mean, it won't be some huge number, so you probably won't be able to tell. But that'll be different next year.
The only other one that caught my eye in terms of expenses, equipment went up 15% from $5.2 million to $6.1 million. I would assume that jerseys are included in that, and I do feel like I have noticed more jerseys in general under the Pat Kraft era of between like baseball getting new jerseys, like with the new logo and font on them. I wonder if some of that's, maybe not all of that, but I wonder if some of that's kind of included in there as well. So,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, no major takeaways per se, other than Penn State's a very well-funded athletic department, and I'm interested to see how these numbers change, grow. Like, how razor thin the margin gets. Will Penn State ever like really have a deficit? I don't know that they've ever had a deficit or like a big deficit per se of similar akin to what Ohio State has. But yeah, Penn State is not as small as the athletic department as it gets made out to be at points.
Who makes it out as small?
Just I feel like people in the public.
Okay.
Not us. So
big thriving business with lots of employees. Yeah. Lots of well-paid employees.
Literally like almost about $70 million purely on salaries and then admin as well. So that's not a small number. Okay. Those were the interesting numbers that we noticed there. That will become now that it's 2 years, we're 2 years into that. That's officially a StuffSummerSays.com tradition. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Speaking of other traditions on this podcast, this is our 6th Super Bowl? 5th Super Bowl? I can't remember. 5th Super Bowl, I think, together. And I think we've done this every year, and I don't know what we're going to wager. Probably nothing, because we never wager anything. But we haven't even really talked about the NFL this year because it's been so busy in some of the sports media storylines there. I think the main one that we will probably talk about next week is the Tom Brady effect and Tom Brady being Tom Brady and on a broadcast and not being very good at it. But we'll save those thoughts for later.
Good thing we didn't talk about it all along because they just threw that right out there.
But that being said, we will do our annual prop bets of Darian and Steve style, if you will. Some of them, the traditional prop bets. Some of them I've curated for my own personal amusement. Okay.
Okay.
All right. First off, does Steve? This is. Do you know who the anthem singer is?
I feel like I know, but I don't remember.
Okay, it's John Baptiste, very famous.
Okay, then no, I don't think musician. I know. Yeah, just saw him today in a movie.
You watch the SNL movie? So,
yes, I did.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, he's in the movie. I didn't realize it was him until after the credits rolled, and I was like, oh, okay. Yep. So he's doing the anthem. Over under is 120.5 seconds.
Just slightly over.
Just slightly over. I think he's also gonna be over as well. Will he use an instrument or will he just be singing?
He's gonna use an instrument.
Yeah, I'm gonna go no because I don't think he is. I think he's just gonna be singing. Who wins the coin toss? Not
team or heads or tails?
No, not heads or tails. Who wins it? Does
Chiefs?
I also think the Chiefs on that one actually. Okay. What will be the first commercial that we see? Will it be beer related or car related?
Car related.
I feel like Bud Light's already just jamming stuff down my throat about
maybe. I just felt like, I don't remember from last year. I felt like the beer came a little later. I would go non-beer. Maybe not car, but I might go non-beer.
Non-beer. Okay. All right. I made up this one. The number of AI related commercials. Over under
2.
Oh, you're gonna go under 3.5. 2? Okay. I kind of feel like it's gonna be 4. I think it's gonna be at least 4. I really do.
Yeah, because somebody will tell us the whole commercial was made by AI or something too.
Yeah.
Whoever it is.
Yeah. And then it's gonna be like it's either gonna be really freaky or really good, and then we're gonna be really annoyed about it. So there's that. The reason I asked about the Grammys, Steve. I want to know, first off, you do know who the halftime performer is, right?
Is it Kendrick Lamar?
It is Kendrick Lamar. I'm very proud of you on that one.
Okay, good.
Over under number of songs that Steve will recognize in the Super Bowl halftime show, 0.5.
0.5. There's probably one I got to know, right? There's probably one I've got to heard.
Did you see the song that I think you would know him from? If you've seen Black Panther, that would probably be.
It's probably true. It's probably your best bet. There's probably a chance that I'm going to be like, oh, I've heard that before for one.
I'm going.
We'll
under.
See, but I'm not going. I'm
going
not going
hard under.
I'll listen. Try to listen closely and let you know.
This next one is more of a trivia question that I just want to suss out now. In fact, maybe I should have asked this earlier. The song that Kendrick Lamar raps, "Not Like Us," is a diss track about who?
I have no idea.
God, Steve, just got to keep up with pop culture. Do you know who Drake is?
I do.
Okay, it's about Drake. He does not.
He's a Raptors fan.
He is. He's from Toronto. He is from the Six. Okay. Other part of Kendrick Lamar that ties in well with this Super Bowl. If you watched the Grammys last night, there was a great shot of her holding a glass while he was accepting an award, toasting to him. Taylor Swift has a song with him. Will she really? Yes. Will she show up at the halftime show?
No,
I don't think so either. I think we're both on the same page there. I think she's too focused on being a fan.
She's going to give him his room.
Yeah.
People would be really upset if she did that.
If she showed up?
Yeah. I think people would just be like, give him his space. You're already here. They're already watching the broadcast. I think she'd get beat up. I think it'd be a bad PR decision. I mean, I don't think she showed up anyway in that role, but I think it'd be a bad decision for her to show up in that role.
For Travis or for Kendrick? Because I think it's
for Ken. Like if she's up for Kendrick at halftime, you were talking about halftime. If she elbowed her way into halftime, people would feel like she elbowed her way into halftime because the Chiefs were there and whatever else. So
okay,
yeah.
I haven't decided how.
Wouldn't shock me if she shows up in a commercial for something else somewhere. Like I don't know what, but it wouldn't shock me if she made a cameo in some commercial during the broadcast.
Okay, all right. So Steve we'll put a little like side appearance somewhere that is not in the shot of her in the suite with her rich friends. Okay. Next one is Penn State related. Will Ross Travis show up?
No,
I'm saying yes. He is gonna get some airtime.
He's gonna have to work on his boxing out to get close enough to her for the shot. That's all.
He was right up there last year.
That's true.
Okay, the important ones. What is the Gatorade color?
I'll go traditional orange. I think I did that last year and was wrong. But.
Okay, you're gonna go orange. I'm gonna when you said orange. I'm gonna go like what flavor is that?
I don't know. Isn't it like orange?
Oh, because I'm gonna go lemon, like the yellow.
Yeah, lemon lime's like yellow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Who gets thanked first by the Super Bowl MVP? You got like the team, coaches, my family, God,
the fans.
I think it's a big God. All right. Who wins?
Eagles.
I think I'm there with you. I think as I sit here right now, I just think they're kind of got an it factor to them right now.
I'm not even sure it's, I don't want to say close, but I think the Eagles are pretty good. I think maybe they played lesser opponents getting there, but they've looked really good.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like they just kind of have like the spunk right now, and I don't know.
Susan would be like, "Oh, that's exciting for Saquon. Isn't it going to be great if they win the Super Bowl?" And I'm like, "No, it's just not." Like,
why?
No.
What? It's you don't want to have to deal with the miserableness of an Eagles
fans. Yeah, like I don't care if the Eagles win. It's just their fans.
That's a large subset of our audience. You're right.
I know, and I'm sorry. And you guys can send the emails. We'll share the email address. Yep. But everybody I say that to says to me, I'll say, I don't care if they win or not. It's just their fans are annoying. And all the Eagles fans that I've said that to are like, you're not wrong.
Yeah, so you're not wrong. No.
So I don't mean it in a mean-spirited way. I just,
No, I as much as I don't want the Eagles to win because of their fans, I think the Eagles are going to win. And yeah, their fans will. It's good content, It's good to watch a bunch of idiots drunk try to go up a greased light pole.
Well, it didn't work out at best last week for the one kid, right? Unfortunately, that's horrible.
So that's I think that's one of the reasons why I think they're going to win. Okay, what's on the menu? What are you cooking? I haven't decided what I'm cooking yet.
I think we're not home. Like I think we're going to the in-laws. So. I have no idea.
Okay, I might do wings. I don't know though. I think I did wings last year and they were pretty good, but I don't want to do like I did buffalo. I haven't done buffalo chicken dip, but I'm kind of over buffalo chicken dip. I don't know that I want to do a dip. We have done nachos recently, and I have been pondering like nachos, like like a big
big plate of nachos. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what what ends up on the menu. We haven't had that conversation because we're like a week out as we record this, a little less than a week. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Last thing before we get out of here, this week's Old Guy, Young Guy. It was a good question, and it's one question that I'm very curious about. It comes from Stuff Summer says Obud's been Russ, I guess would be a good way.
So listeners can now start submitting their own Old Guy, Young Guy suggestions?
Correct. That is. And I'm just gonna let me get to the text specifically because I want to make sure I get this.
You can submit these questions by text or email. Feel free if you'd like to have your own Old Guy, Young Guy topic.
All right. What is the last? This one. When's the last time Steve Samsel bought an item of a sports team that he supports?
I wasn't paying attention to the questions. I paid attention to that one. I don't know.
I figured you were going to struggle with this because
I've got Steelers stuff that I bought, right? But it's been a little while. I've got a base Pirate shirt. The last Pirate shirt was probably in spring training. We took the kids there a couple of years ago. This probably doesn't count because it's not a team I support, but I like it. I don't know. What's yours? Say yours and maybe I'll think about it. Let me think.
Sunday.
What'd you buy?
A new jersey, a new Lightning jersey. And then before that, it was...
Why Sunday? Don't you already have one?
Yeah, I just was
or two?
I already have... I think this will be my fourth. I just was like, I need a new one. You know, sometimes...
Oh, yeah, because this was prompted by the whole blue and white thing and whatever else. Yeah. I try to look down here in the game room, like what I would have...
I mean, I've become pretty bad about it. Like, I bought Penn State stuff more often than not this football season.
Yeah, see, my stuff's like the sweatshirt that I had today that I wore around the house, Penn State thing that I probably bought that. That's got some age on it. It's got some grandson throw up on it after babysitting him today too. So it's got a little bit of everything. I don't know. That's a great, I'll have to do homework and I'll have to look in the closet and do homework of the stuff I bought for the team. It had to be a Penn State thing, right?
When's the last time you were in a store downtown?
I went in over the holidays this year.
Okay.
Like looking for people, looking for stuff. I buy t-shirts. I know what it was. Was it? Yeah, it was probably, this is still several years old. It was the white t-shirt for the whiteout to go to Auburn. It says State on it.
That what? You know how much Penn State stuff I have purchased between the Auburn game in Auburn and now?
I can't, because I don't buy hockey stuff. I don't buy basketball stuff. I don't buy wrestling stuff. Because I have all this. I mean, I have something that I think it was the white t-shirt that I wore to Auburn, and I got it. This is total old guy cheapness. I got the one that just says State at like Lion and Cub because I just wanted a white shirt. So I didn't pay the licensing fee. So there you go. That's why my friends in licensing probably don't like me either.
That is exactly why we have non-licensed stuff. I've probably spent at least $1,000 on Penn State stuff between the Auburn game in Auburn and now.
Okay, we'll see.
All right.
But at some point you won't. Well, and I honest know the other thing is I'm seeing it on you. I have bought stuff Summer says stuff since
fair.
then.
That's fair. And we'll give that like a 75%. Yeah,
75?
Half
okay,
cap.
okay.
Yeah, we'll give you that.
Okay.
Because that's
the most stuff I bought in the past couple of years was that stuff.
Man, that's very comfy. This is the limited edition.
Pink and black. That's nice.
It's still kind of cold here, and I'm annoyed by that. Okay, that's this week's show. Let us know the last time you bought stuff. If you would like to speed that up, you can do that on our website. It's called stuffsummersays.com.
Nice, good
Thank
job.
you. In addition to the stuff section, there's a section called With
Steve.
We've got emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Cool. 5 stars. Thumbs up. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everyone. I kept track so we can see who's right and wrong on that. We've got a Super Bowl to discuss on Monday. So, yeah, cool. You can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says, mainly. Steve.
I'm there at Steve Samsel on Twitter.
Perfect. Cool. Talk to you later. See ya.